Lindsay Buziak knew something was wrong. The feeling crept in slowly at first, a whisper in the back of her mind, a shiver she couldn't quite explain. The call had been strange, the voices on the other end, too calm, too rehearsed. $1 million home, an urgent request, a meeting set for 5:30 p.m. sharp. It didn't make sense. Why her? Lindsay was no stranger to real estate deals, but something about this one felt off from the start. It began with a call, a woman's voice, polite yet distant, inquiring about $1 million home. Lindsay wasn't the agency's top agent. She was a junior, and deals of this size usually went to more experienced colleagues. The thought gnawed at the back of her mind, but she brushed it aside. Trying to quiet her unease, she asked the woman,
"May I ask, who referred you to me?"
There was a pause too long before the woman finally responded, her voice smooth but strangely distant.
"A friend of my husband."
No name, no details. The commission would be life-changing, a step forward, the success she always dreamed of. So despite the unease curling in her stomach, she agreed to meet them. She told herself it was just business, just luck, just her time to shine. The couple, saved in Lindsay's BlackBerry simply as the Mexicans, had called her just days before. Their voices were calm, too calm, as they described their needs: a move-in ready home, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a separate space for a housekeeper. It all seemed normal, yet something in the silence between their words sent an unshakable chill through her. Then came the most unsettling detail. They wanted to buy the house in just 2 days. The urgency, the secrecy, something wasn't right. And yet Lindsay ignored the warning signs, because no one ever thinks they're walking into a trap until it's too late. It was as if the unknown couple weren't just looking for a home, but running from something, or worse, running towards something or someone. Lindsay found a property that matched the couple's exact requirements: 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a separate space for a housekeeper. It was stunning, move-in ready home, seemingly perfect for what they were looking for. Without hesitation, she arranged the showing for the following evening at 5:30 p.m. The woman on the other end of the call agreed quickly. As Lindsay confirmed the appointment, a faint sense of unease stirred within her. Why the rush? But again, she dismissed the feeling just as quickly as it came. It was just business, just another showing, just another step towards success. What she didn't know was that she had just sealed her fate. By this time tomorrow, she would be dead. Lindsay arrived at the vacant home just before dusk, the sky painted in fading shades of gray. At 5:30 p.m., she met the mysterious couple outside. She led them, her heels clicking against the cold, empty floors. The house was silent, lifeless. As she guided them upstairs, the air grew heavier, thick with something unseen, something waiting. Then the door closed. Minutes later, Lindsay lay sprawled in the upstairs bedroom, her blood pooling across the pristine floor, dozens of stab wounds carved into her flesh, quick, ruthless, final. The house stood eerily still, absorbing the horror within its walls. By the time her boyfriend arrived, the killer or killers were gone, vanished like phantoms into the night. The only thing left behind was the brutal aftermath of something dark, something planned, something evil. Something had lured her there. Someone had planned this, and someone had gotten away with the murder. But who and why? The evening of February 2nd, 2008 was cold and still, the kind of night where the shadows stretched long and the air carried an unnatural silence. Eyewitnesses saw Lindsay Buziak standing outside the vacant home waiting, and then from the dimming light, they appeared. A man, tall, 6 feet or more, with dark hair and a long coat, walked beside a woman with short blonde hair, her slim figure wrapped in a striking red and black patterned dress. They moved with an eerie calm, their faces unreadable. Lindsay Buziak was born November 2nd, 1983, to Jeff Buziak and Evelyn Rittmeyer. From an early age, she was known for her joyful spirit and deep care for those around her. Friends and colleagues would describe her as someone who could light up a room, a young woman with big dreams and the determination to chase them. By 2006, Lindsay had begun dating Jason Zalo, whose family was well established in the real estate world. It was a promising match. Lindsay had just launched her own career in real estate and often turned to Jason for guidance. She also sought advice from her father, Jeff Buziak, a real estate agent himself. With their support, Lindsay was eager to make her mark in the industry. She had ambition, drive, and a bright future ahead of her. The day Lindsay was set to meet the mysterious couple, a nagging unease clung to her. Something about this deal felt wrong. Sensing her discomfort, Jason reassured her.
"I'll be nearby. I'll wait outside my car if anything happens."
It was meant to put her at ease. After all, Jason was 6'3", a former semi-pro hockey player, strong, confident, someone who could step in if something went wrong. But when Lindsay stepped into the house, the door closing behind her, Jason wasn't close enough. That evening, Jason was running late. He had just finished a meeting at an auto shop where he picked up a colleague before heading to meet Lindsay. They had plans to play hockey later that night. As he drove, he texted Lindsay, letting her know he was behind schedule. She never responded. The house, nestled in a quiet cul-de-sac, was so new that it reportedly didn't even show up on Jason's GPS, and because of this, he struggled to find it. At 5:41, Lindsay's phone made a call. A strange, unexpected outbound dial to a friend she hadn't spoken to in ages. The call went to voicemail, no words, no voice, just muffled sounds. An accident, perhaps, a simple pocket dial, or something far more sinister, a final, unintentional cry for help. Saanich police would later analyze the eerie message, but there were no clear answers, just distorted noises. At 5:45 p.m., Jason pulled up outside the house, his colleague in the passenger seat. True to his word, he stayed in the car, believing Lindsay was inside, still giving the tour. What he didn't know was that just 10 minutes earlier, the showing had turned into something else entirely. Inside the house, behind closed doors, Lindsay was being hunted, ambushed, stabbed to death. The moment her phone made the eerie, muffled pocket dial, she was already in the clutches of her killers. Yet, just outside, Jason sat in his car, completely unaware. His girlfriend was being murdered mere feet away, and he had no idea. Then something began to gnaw at him. The house was too still, no movement behind the window, no signs of a typical showing in progress. He called Lindsay, no answer. He texted her, nothing. With each passing second, an unease crept over him. At 6 p.m., Jason's unease had curdled into fear. Lindsay wasn't answering. The house was too quiet. Something was wrong. He and his colleague stepped out of the car and approached the front door. Locked. A chill ran down Jason's spine. He dialed 911 as they hurried around the back door. There, they found the patio door, unlocked. Someone had left it open, someone who had no intention of staying. As soon as Jason stepped inside, he bolted up the stairs, calling Lindsay's name into the silence. No response. Then, he found her. Laying in the master bedroom, motionless, drenched in blood. His breath caught, his mind struggled to process the scene before him. Lindsay was dead, brutally murdered. And the couple, the last people to see her alive, were gone. Vanished. Jason and his colleague were immediately taken into police custody for questioning. Investigators needed answers. Had they been involved? Had they known what was waiting for Lindsay inside the house? But the truth lay elsewhere, time-stamped. Surveillance footage from the auto shop confirmed their alibi. They couldn't have killed her. So if it wasn't them, then who was it? Detectives turned their attention to the mysterious woman who had called Lindsay to arrange the showing. Whoever killed Lindsay knew her schedule, had access to false identities, and executed the crime flawlessly. The precision suggested professional killers possibly hired by someone with a personal vendetta. They traced the number back to a prepaid cell phone, a burner phone, purchased months earlier in Vancouver. The name on the account? A ghost. It was registered under the false identity, Paulo Rodriguez. The phone had only ever made one connection to the outside world, Lindsay Buziak. And then, as soon as she was dead, the number went dark, deactivated. It was no random attack, no crime of passion. Lindsay Buziak had been lured into a trap, and whoever had set it had planned every step. It's entirely possible that the so-called woman in the red and black dress was actually a man in disguise, wearing a blonde wig and feminine clothing to mislead witnesses. Eyewitnesses' descriptions are often unreliable, and disguising a male accomplice as a woman would have helped avoid identification, while making the pair seem less suspicious. If this was a professional hit, the killers would have planned every detail meticulously, including how to vanish without a trace. The fact that no one matching the woman's description has ever been identified suggests she may have never existed at all, just another layer of deception in a cold-blooded, perfectly executed murder. Lindsay had every reason to feel at ease meeting a well-dressed couple for a house showing. It was part of her job, and a woman's presence would have made the situation seem even safer. But what if that sense of security was carefully manufactured? Imagine this. The so-called woman spoke softly, her tone rehearsed to sound feminine and non-threatening. Her frame was petite enough to pass in a quick glance, but in reality it was just a carefully constructed illusion. A man in disguise masking his true identity behind a wig, makeup, and the right clothing. The choice of a red and black dress was likely intentional, bold enough to stand out in witness memories, but vague enough that no one would recall distinctive facial features. The dress became the most identifiable thing about her, rather than the person wearing it. Lindsay may have felt a moment of unease when she met the couple, but by then, it was all too late. Theories surrounding Lindsay Buziak's murder have swirled for years, some pointing toward those closest to her. One theory places suspicion on the Zalo family, prominent figures in the same real estate brokerage Lindsay works for. The street where she was murdered, De Sousa Place, was named after Joe De Sousa, a developer allegedly linked to Jason's mother, Shirley Zalo. Lindsay's father, Jeff Buziak, had described Shirley as overbearing and controlling, claiming she went so far as to purchase a house for Jason and Lindsay, not as a gift, but as a way to isolate Lindsay from her own family. But Lindsay's mother and sister refuted these claims, and Shirley insisted the house was nothing more than a family summer home that Jason and Lindsay had access to. But if it wasn't them, then who? Another even darker theory suggests that Lindsay had unknowingly crossed paths with something far more dangerous, a drug cartel. In December 2007, just weeks before her murder, Lindsay had visited her father in Calgary. Shortly afterward, police carried out the largest cocaine bust in the city's history. Some investigators believe the cartel mistakenly thought Lindsay was an informant. And in the brutal world of organized crime, they don't ask questions, they send a message. Had Lindsay unknowingly signed her own death warrant simply by being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Not long after returning from Calgary, Lindsay made a call, a seemingly ordinary action that would later cast a long dark shadow over her murder. She had reached out to an acquaintance, someone she hadn't spoken to in some time, but this wasn't just anyone. This person's relative was deeply entangled in a massive drug operation, the very one dismantled in Calgary's largest ever cocaine bust. It was a connection too eerie to ignore. Why had she called? What did she know? No one can say. Police combed through every possibility, every rumor, but they found no proof that Lindsay was involved in the drug trade, no evidence that she had anything to do with the bust. And yet, what if someone believed she did? What if, in the violent world of cartels and retribution, her name had been whispered in the wrong ear, marked for something she never did? The call, like everything else, led nowhere. The trail went cold. And in the years that followed, the truth became distorted, a maze of conflicting stories, unanswered questions, and a rising tide of misinformation. Even Lindsay's own father had been accused of spreading claims that only deepened the mystery. Desperate for answers, Jeff created the website LindsayBuziakMurder.com, a platform meant to track developments in her case. But over time, the site became a breeding ground for unverified claims, conspiracy theories, and accusations without proof. One of the most unsettling claims came in a blog post where Jeff alleged that Lindsay had written him a letter before she died, a warning that she had seen something she shouldn't have. But when pressed, Jeff never turned this letter over to police. Later, in an email, he appeared to admit the letter was faux. Then there was the accusation against Zalo's family. Jason Zalo, Lindsay's boyfriend at the time, had already been ruled out as a suspect, yet blog posts painted him and his mother, Shirley Zalo, as deeply involved in the crime. The accusations became so intense that in 2022, Shirley sued Jeff and 2 associates for defamation. Even Lindsay's mother, Evelyn, has distanced herself from Jeff's claims, condemning the endless speculation. Despite the rumors, despite the accusations, one fact remains: Lindsay Buziak's killer has never been caught. In 2021, police revealed that advancements in DNA technology had given them new leads, but no arrests have been made. For all the theories, for all the whispers in the dark, Lindsay's murder remains a mystery. Lindsay Buziak was lured into an empty house on a quiet cul-de-sac. She walked inside, trusting the strangers who had called her just days before, people she had never met, people who had no real names. Minutes later, she was dead. Who planned it? Who carried it out? The answers have remained just out of reach, buried beneath a tangled web of lies, half-truth, and whispers. A burner phone purchased months in advance, used only to contact her, then discarded forever. A pocket dial, a final garbled message from Lindsay's phone, made in the last moments of her life. Now, more than a decade later, her case is suffocating under the weight of misinformation, false accusations, and the chaos of the internet. The truth is still out there. The person who planned her murder is still out there.